Hi there, I'm Sean Dillman. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Password Manager software. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Before we discuss how to use a password manager, first I'm going to briefly discuss why you should be using a password manager. So without getting into the details, there's all kinds of studies that have been done over the years, and it seems that the average person is using about 100 passwords for various accounts. There's social media, email, banking information, just all kinds of things online that you have different passwords for. And none of us can really very easily remember 100 different passwords to 100 different accounts. So what most people do is they settle on using a handful of passwords. I think that the average is about 4. People will use a password that is maybe their pet's name, so it's something like Fido, and then they'll just add 1, 2, 3. And then every once in a while, what they will do is if they have a new account, maybe they'll say Fido ! 1, 2, 3, or they'll put it at the end, or they'll start to change up the case, uppercase F, lowercase I, D, O, something like that. So the problem with that is if you're only using a handful of passwords, and if hackers are working out there to compromise password databases, which they are. If you search online for password breaches, you'll find all kinds of stories about different organizations that have had their passwords stolen by different kinds of hackers. So the problem with this is that if you're not using Password Manager software, and if you're only using about 4 different passwords, you can have your accounts breached even though you haven't done anything wrong on your end. You haven't fallen for a phishing scam, you haven't used an unsafe website, you haven't made any mistakes on your side, and yet your passwords and your accounts can be compromised because hackers are out there breaching organizations and breaking into password databases all of the time. So for example, if you had your password for a certain website that you use to purchase books, and then you use the same password for your email account, and you also use that password for a social media account, if hackers were to break into the first and the second accounts, the bookseller and the email address, well, there you go. Now they have your social media account, and they may have more of your passwords. And once they're in your email, they can find out what kinds of other accounts you have. So it's a bit of a scary thing, but the great thing to know is that there is a really effective solution, and that solution is to use a password manager. So we're going to start by looking at this website. This is Wikipedia. If you go there and search for this website, it just says list of password managers at the top, and you can scroll down and see that there are all kinds of different password manager softwares that you can use. There's LastPass, Bitwarden, Dashlane, NPass, Firefox Lockwise, etc., etc. So I'm just going to keep scrolling and show you that, as you can see, there's quite a long list. I'm going to leave it to you to decide which kind of password manager you think works best for you. In this demonstration, I'm going to be picking a free one that I think is quite effective and one that I use personally. But if you want to use any of these, please feel free. They should all generally work the same. As you can see in these columns, they're going to come with different features. Some will work better perhaps for Mac or Windows. Some will be free, some will not be free. Some will integrate with your web browser, some will not. So there's all kinds of different features that are available, but on the whole, they should generally work the same. And again, I'm going to leave it to you to decide which one you want to pick, but I want to show you this so that you understand that there's lots of choice out there, and that if you choose one and you don't like it for some reason, or you'd rather try a different one, then just consult this list and pick a password manager for you. So for the purposes of this demonstration, we are actually going to use this one. It's called KeePass. So I'm going to click on this link, and this is going to take me to the KeePass Wikipedia page. There's all kinds of stuff that you can read about KeePass, but the long and short of it is that, to me, it seems that KeePass is made by trustworthy and thoughtful individuals who are giving this software out for free. They're maintaining it for free, and this is just a really wonderful service. So we're not going to get into the details about how exactly it works. We're not going to talk about what level of encryption it has. We're not going to talk about all of its features, but if you want to come to this webpage and read about KeePass, please do. But generally speaking, I think that this is a really good password manager, and this is the one that we're going to use for the purposes of this demonstration. So we're going to scroll down here to where it says website. So the KeePass website is keepass.info. We're going to click here. It's going to ask if we will accept cookies from this website. We're going to be using their software, so I'll say yes, we'll allow it. And then over here on the left, it shows you their latest releases. So we're actually just going to click either here on the newest one or over here on downloads. So I'm just going to click here, first one on the list, and it says that KeePass version 2.5 is ready. So if you're seeing this video in the future, by now, the version may be 2.6, 2.7, 3.1, who knows what. So KeePass 2.50, it says you can get it here, download. I'm gonna click there. It's gonna take me to this new screen. We're gonna download the newest version, and it's gonna take us over to this other website, SourceForge. SourceForge is basically a website that holds all kinds of software that allows people to download that software for free. And then I'm gonna click here at the bottom. It's now asking what kind of setup language we want to use. We're gonna go with English. It's now asking if we accept the license agreement. We will accept that. And now it's asking where we want to install the software. I'll just use the default location. Now it's asking which components we want to install. We'll just install them all. I can see that this is only going to be maybe about 5 megabytes or less than 10 megabytes in size. So for modern computers, that's barely any space at all. So that's no problem. We're going to install all of these files. Click on next. This next window is asking if we want to connect the file extension KDBX to this specific software. We're going to say yes, because that file extension is going to be the files that hold our database of passwords. And what I mean by that is, let's say you had passwords that you were using for your home and for personal use, and then let's say you were also using passwords at an office. You can have multiple different databases, and they will all be opened by KeePass. So I'm going to click next to allow that, and then the final screen says install. I'm going to click install. Okay, it installed pretty quickly. The last thing it's asking is if we want to launch KeePass. We will click finish and launch the software. Okay, so when we open KeePass for the first time, we're gonna have this screen. As you can see, there's not much to do here. It's just a bunch of gray boxes. That's because we don't have our database set up yet and there's no information in it. So the very first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna click on this icon here, which says new, or we're gonna click on file new. You can do it either way. So now what it says is your data will be stored in a KeePass database file, which is a regular file. After clicking OK, you will be prompted to specify the location of where KeePass should save this file. It is important that you remember where the database file is stored. You should regularly create a backup of the database file onto an independent data storage device. This is actually all very good information, and this is actually really practical. It's true. So what it's saying is that you need to make sure that you keep track of where the database file is, because that is the file that's going to have your passwords on it. So if you were to think about this as if it were a physical piece of paper and you had written all of your passwords on it in pen, you would need to know where that list is. Did you put it in the drawer? Did you put it in a cupboard somewhere? Did you put it in your desk? Did you put it in the closet? Where is the list? So it's important that you know where this database file is being stored. It's also important that you make backups of the file. So going back to the analogy of a paper list that you may have made, if you've got a copy stored in your desk and if there was a fire at your office, you would lose all your passwords. So what you may want to do is photocopy that list and also keep a copy safe at home. So that way, if something happens to your office, you'll still have your passwords at home. Something like that. And for some of you, you may actually already be doing that now. That may be your current system. So, okay, we're gonna click OK to that. So now it's asking, where do we want to create our database file? So this is a part where I'm going to plug Microsoft Office 365 a little bit. I think that Office 365 offers great value because it gives you OneDrive, OneNote, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all kinds of great software for a really good price. And one of the really important pieces of software that it gives you is OneDrive. So using OneDrive, you can store your files on your computer, but also in the cloud. You may have heard of this. There's all kinds of other solutions that you can use as well. You can use Google Drive, you can use Dropbox, you can use iCloud. There's all kinds of other solutions that you can use. So whichever one works best for you, please use that. Or if you already have it, I would recommend that you use that. I like to use OneDrive because I'm already using Microsoft Windows as my operating system, so it integrates really easily. And essentially what OneDrive does is it ensures that data that I have stored in a specific place on my hard drive is also being stored on the cloud. So if you look here and you see it says OneDrive and there's a little cloud there, that data, the data that is stored in that location, is also being stored on the cloud, which means that if something were to happen to my computer or my laptop, all of that data would still be on the cloud, so that if I were to later reinstall the software on my computer, I could download that information from the cloud and I would still have all of my information. I would really strongly recommend that you back up your KeePass database using OneDrive or something similar. That's a great way to ensure that you're keeping a backup that's on the cloud and it's also on your local hard drive, so that if anything ever happens, you'll still have your database file. Another great thing about using OneDrive is that if I'm using multiple different computers, let's say I'm using a PC at home and a laptop at my office, if I make a change to my password database on my computer at the office, that change will happen locally on my computer, and then that change will also be made on the version that's on the cloud, and then that cloud version will be updated on my laptop. So if I'm adding passwords or changing passwords or doing any kind of work with my password manager database, that information will be the same on both computers. It actually also works on the mobile app. It's very helpful for using a lot of things like online banking, where you need to use your smartphone because you are taking a picture of a check to deposit it. You can't do that with your computer or with your laptop or anything like that. And you can access it through your phone on the cloud, and it works seamlessly. Okay, so as far as the name of the database file goes, the default is database.kdbx. We're going to change that. We're going to call it something else. So we're going to call this personal. You can call your password database whatever you like. You could put your name in it or whatever. I'm the only one that uses my computer, so I'm just going to call it personal. And because of the file extension, I'm going to know that this works only with KeePass. So I'm going to click on Save. The next window is asking us to create a master password. This is very important. So this master password is what we're going to use to get into this database file. If you do not have this master password, you cannot get into the file. And much like other accounts that you may have, where you see that you're prompted these days to create a strong password, you're also going to want a very strong password for your password manager. Especially so, because this database is going to be holding all of your other passwords. So if you pick a weak password like 12345, and somebody can very easily guess your password and get into your database, then there you go. They will have all of your passwords to all of your various accounts. So you're going to want to come up with a very strong password that you can remember, but it's very important that it's a strong password that you keep written down and you keep it in your head, but you don't keep it on a file somewhere in your computer. It would defeat the point if you had a notepad file sitting next to your database file that had your password in it. So it's very important that you do pick a strong password and that you keep it secure somewhere in the real world, somewhere written down, and that you're also able to commit it to memory. So I'm going to enter a strong password that I use all the time. I'm not going to tell you what it is. And now I have to click in the next box and repeat the password so that the software is confident that I actually know the password and I can put it in twice. And if you look below, it's actually giving me a rating of the quality of my password. It's saying it's about 67 bits. It's 12 characters long. That's true. Generally speaking though, I'm happy with the password. It has upper and lowercase letters. It has numbers. It has special characters. I can remember it. And based on other websites that estimate the strength of passwords, it seems as if it would actually take quite a long time for the password to be cracked. For example, this is a website that will estimate the strength of passwords. So I'm going to just show you as an example. What if our password was 12345? 12345. If my password was 12345, it says that it would be cracked instantly. To show you a comparison, what if this was my password? It's 15 characters long, and as you can see, it's got upper and lowercase letters, it's got special characters, it's got numbers, all kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to paste it in and let's see how long it would take. Okay, according to the website, it would take 400 billion years to crack that password. Keep in mind that hackers are getting better all the time at cracking codes and cracking passwords, so Generally speaking, these numbers are probably going down all the time, meaning a 15-character password that takes 400 billion years to crack today, a year from now, perhaps it will only take 300 billion or 200 billion, or perhaps there will be some kind of advance in technology and maybe it will only take, 1,000 years or whatever. Importantly, if it's longer than our lifetime, then it's probably a good password. And if I want to be safe, maybe I want to have a password that would take about 200 years or 500 years, so that if hackers do start getting more and more sophisticated, it would still be a very strong password. Okay, I'm going to return to KeePass now. As you can see, I've entered my password twice, once in the master password field, once in the repeat field. Both of the fields are showing white, which means that the password matches. I'm going to click on OK, and it is saying to me, the specified master password is weak. Are you sure that you want to use this master password? As I said, I have already checked this password myself, and it would take a very long time for it to be cracked, so I'm going to proceed and say yes. Okay, so I'm going to leave the database name as personal. I'm not going to bother to write in a description, but if I was using this with a team, I could write in a description so that other people could understand what this is about. If there was a new team member that had just joined the company, and if they had access to this database, this information could actually be useful because it would tell them what this database is for, what kind of passwords it contains, what the passwords are for, things like that. Default username for new entries, I'm going to leave that blank. I'm also not going to pick a custom color. I'm also not going to go through these tabs: security, compression, recycle bin, and advanced. I think that for most people, the default settings will work just fine. Okay, so now it's asking me if I want to print an emergency sheet. It says a KeePass emergency sheet contains all important information that is required to open your database. It should be printed, filled out, and stored in a secure location where only you and possibly a few other people that you trust have access to. It is recommended that you create an emergency sheet for your database. I'm going to click yes, print. KeePass will print an emergency sheet, which we can then fill out. It's bringing up this dialog box where I can choose my printer. So I am going to print this on paper, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm also going to just save it as a PDF so that I can show you what it looks like and show you which sections you'd be filling out. Okay, so I saved it as a PDF, and this is what the document looks like if you print it out. It says KeePass emergency sheet. It shows you where the database file is located and says you should regularly create a backup of the database file onto an independent data storage device. Backups are stored here. Down here, it says master password. This is where you're actually going to write in the master password in pen, ideally not pencil, so that it'll stay on this sheet. And then it tells you what the instructions are, which generally say that you should be keeping this in a safe location that only you have access to and perhaps a few other trusted people. The second to last bullet also warns you that if you lose your master password, there's really no way to access your database file. That is the point of a password manager, to prevent people from breaking in. So if you forget your master password and you don't know how to get back into your password database, then you may be locked out. So it's very important that you keep track of your master password and that you don't lose it. Okay, so returning to KeePass, this is what you're going to see when you make your database. You've put in your master password. As you can see, there's a couple sample entries, sample entry number 2, and then sample entry. Typically, the first thing that I do is delete these entries, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm gonna open up one of these sample entries to show you what's there. So just drag your mouse over to the entry, right-click on it, and then go down here to where it says Edit Entry. So this brings up the information that is stored for that specific entry. The title of this is Sample Entry. The username is username. The password is there twice, so that you have to put it in once and then you have to put it again to be very sure that you know the password. It'll tell you the quality of the password. You can put in the URL of where you use this password, and then there's a section where you can keep notes. And if you want, you can actually keep track of when this password is going to expire. For example, if you are working at a company that has a regular rotation of passwords which will expire, you can put your password in, and then you can also note that on this date it's going to expire and you're going to have to move to the new password. So I'm going to click OK to close that, and now I'm going to select both entries, and then I'm going to press delete, and it's going to ask me if I'm sure that I want to delete these. The good news is that it's actually just going to send these to a recycle bin within KeePass. So I'm going to say yes. If I ever wanted those entries back, I can come over here where it says recycle bin, click there, and there are those two entries. So I'm going to click here where it says personal to go back to the main window. As you can see on the left, there are subfolders that are within the main folder of personal. So what you can do is when you make your passwords, you can put them in those specific folders, or you can just keep them all in the root. There is a search feature that is very powerful in KeePass, and I find it to be a really simple way to find passwords. So generally I keep most of my passwords in the root, but sometimes I will file my passwords in specific folders, such as Windows or home banking or things like that. So after all of that, we're now ready to add our first entry to our password database. So there's a few ways you can do it. The easiest way is to click this little key icon and then click here where it says add entry. It's going to bring up this screen, and I'm going to show you what we're going to want to put in each of these fields. So the title of this, we're actually going to use an email account that I haven't used in a number of years. So I'm going to type in Gmail and then I'll put -personal. Now I'll put the username in. The username is futureperfectprogressive@gmail.com. Now I will put in the password. So you'll notice that I pasted the password in 2 times as opposed to typing it in. You can do either. What's important is that the password matches both times. So that's why I've just pasted it in. And apparently the quality of this password is quite good. It's a 95-bit password, so that's great. The next thing I will do is I will add the URL. So this URL is something that I would recommend that you add for every entry, because basically what it allows you to do is you can just click on the URL and it will take you to the place where you enter the password. So you don't have to wonder, where do I go to use this? It'll take you right there and then you can enter the information. So lastly, we have the notes section. And if you're the only person using the password database, then this may or may not be useful to you. You can still put things as reminders to yourself, such as this is the email address that I use for my phone bill, something like that. If you're using your password keeper as part of a team, part of an office, this can come in handy because you can put notes in here that other people can see so that they will understand what is this password used for, who else is using this, who has access, any kind of notes that you need to add, you can add them here. So I'm gonna click on OK. The first thing that I would recommend you do after creating a new entry is to go up to here, click on this little disk icon and save it so that you know that your password is now saved in the database and it's not going anywhere. The next thing that I would do is I would test it to make sure that it's working properly. So we're gonna go here where it says URL, we're gonna double click that, and you can see that it has brought us to the page where we will need to enter our username and password so that we can get into the account. I'll now use the shortcut key Alt-Tab to return to KeePass, and I'm going to double click on where it says username. And I'm going to minimize this, returning back to the Gmail login screen. I'm going to use the shortcut key Control-V, and now I'm going to click next. So it says, "Hi Sean," it recognizes me, and now it's saying that it wants us to enter the password. Again, I will use the shortcut key Alt-Tab, return back to KeePass, and I will do the same thing. I will double click on password. I will use Alt-Tab to go back to the Gmail screen and the shortcut key Control-V to paste the password. I will click next, and there you go. It says you're signed in. So that was an example of how we go from creating an entry, entering our username, entering our password, putting in the URL for where we use the password, saving that entry, and then using it in a practical application. If I ever need to change the password in the future, what I can do is go to the entry, right click on it, go to edit entry, and then change the password here. So let's say I was changing the password to 12345. I wouldn't recommend that you do that, but let's say we were doing that. 12345, and the dialog box below is red because the passwords don't match. I'm gonna press tab, and now this one is highlighted. I'm going to type 12345. Both fields are now clear, which means that the passwords match. I'm going to click on OK, and that entry has been updated. I'm going to click on this little disk to save it so that I know that it's safe. So what we can do now is we can add in all of our other accounts. It takes a little bit of time to set up at the beginning, but once you've got it all in there, it's very useful because what you can do is use this search feature to find whatever password you're looking for. And outside of that, if there's other kinds of things that you need out of this Password Keeper software, I very much encourage you to see if it will do what you need it to do, and if it doesn't, maybe take a look at an alternative. But I generally find that KeePass does everything that I need it to do. It's free, it's simple to set up, it's easy to use, it's very dependable, it's being updated all the time, which is really important, and I just think it's fantastic. If you have any questions on anything that I didn't cover, please comment in the section below and I can respond to you there, or I can actually include that in a future video. And if you're interested in knowing more about managing passwords and the subject of cybersecurity in general, you may want to check out Cybersecurity for Dummies by Joseph Steinberg. Both the paperback and Audible versions are available. If you look in the description section below, you'll see that I have a link for a review video that I've made, as well as my Amazon link. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you found it to be helpful. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. As always, thank you very much for watching. I'm Sean Delman.